All right, so here we've got our 1.2.1 day 2 lesson. So it's the second half of what we started yesterday. And we have more function machines, but we're really going to focus on graphs today. So if you take a look at this function machine, I still have my input up at the top. So it looks like I'm dumping in x equals 2 into the machine itself, but the machine this time is that graph. And we called it g of x. So we know it's a function. We gave it some notation and we gave it a name. That's basically it. But then if we drop x equals 2 into the function machine and you look down at the bottom, we know, so this is already given to us, we know that when you drop 2 in, apparently you get 5 out. So remember what we know about these function machines and the notation. We know that, so I'm at the bottom of the output part, that the value that we drop in, so the orange one, this is our input. Typically, this is an x value. Then the 5, so the green guy, this is our output. And typically, that's a y value. So what this is saying is that if we have an x value of 2, then to find the actual point on the graph, the y value is going to have to be 5. So what this is saying is that 2, 5, so x, y, is a point on the g of x graph. It looks like a curve to me. So it's on the g of x graph. So I'm just going to state that that's the curve. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual graph itself and plot the point 2, 5. So I know that to plot that point, I would start at the origin. So I'm using my orange because I'm going my x direction first. And I would go positive 2, so that's 2 to the right. And then I'm not on the curve yet. Looks like I'm on the Cartesian plane or the coordinate plane, but I'm not actually on the curve of g. To get to the curve of g from where I'm at, I either am going to go up to get to the curve or I'm going to go down. In this case, if I go down, I'm not going to hit the curve. I'd have to go sideways, and I don't want to do that. I want to go up or down. So I'm going to go up. And if I go up 5 units, it does look like I land right there at that blue dot, 2, 5. So in general, this notation for a graph is telling me that I have a point on the curve at that location at 2, 5. So here I have the exact same graph. It hasn't changed. You'll see that I still have my blue dots. So you guys don't have to copy the graph because you already have it. I needed it for another slide. So I still have, remember when I dumped in a 2, I got out of 5. So a little bit of practice with the notation. So now let's take a look at question B. So the input is 1. All right, input is 1. That means that my x value at some point is going to be 1. So that's saying that x equals 1. Then I want to figure out what is the output. So my job is to figure out what y equals. So what does y equal? All right. Okay, I already started the notation for you as well. So if you look, we've got 1 inside the notation. So here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do g of, well, we know the input is 1. We're trying to find the output. So I'm trying to find the point on the graph. So I want to find the point, 1 comma something that's on the g of x graph. And remember, we're looking to be on the curve. So I'll do this one with you, and then I'll see if you guys can do part C. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my colored pens again. So I know that I am going 1 in the x direction. So I'm going to start at the origin. So I'm on my graph, and I'm going to go 1 in the x direction. So I want 1 to the right. Now that you're there, we have to figure out if we're going to go up or we're going to go down to hit the curve. Remember, you don't want to go sideways, just up or down. We already know what the x is. That's 1. The y is the part we're trying to figure out. Well, it looks like we have to go up. And actually, it looks like we're going to have to go up 1 unit to land on that blue dot. So if I go back here, I think I'm going to have to go up 1 unit. So just to verify, 1 comma 1 should be on the graph, which it is. That's the little red box that we've got there. Okay, what I'd like you to do, I would like you to complete part C, just the first one. So g of -1. I want you to direct chat me your answer. So I'm going to start at the origin here. I want to go 1 in the x direction, but negative. So I'm going to go left in the x direction. Now don't go any further in the left direction, left or right. Stay right there. Now from here, we have to figure out, where do you go to get to the curve? Do you go up to get to the curve from there, or do you go down? In this case, you're going to go down to get to the curve. Because if I go up, I'm never going to hit the curve up there. It's not going to happen. So up is not the direction. I need to go down. And then I'm going to count how far down I'm going. And it looks like I go down 2 boxes. So I'm going to go back over here. And I know that I'm going down 2 units. Okay, so -1, -2 is a point on the graph. But that's not my answer. I have to write it in function notation. So g of equals, remember, inside the parenthesis is the x. After the equal sign, that is the y. That is one of the answers. It's basically just a fancy way to say a point. That's it. That's really all it is. It's just a fancy way. So if I take a look at the next one, g of 0, okay, so I'm telling you that there's a point, 0 comma something. I don't know. We got to find the something. So my job is to find the y value, so I go back to the graph again. I'll get rid of that since I'm not using those anymore. And I'm going to start with my orange pen, so my x. Start at the origin. It doesn't say to go right or left at all. It says 0. So don't go anywhere, right or left. Stay put. Now, from the orange dot, you have to figure out where you go to get to the curve. Now, you can go up. Well, I don't think you're going to hit the curve. Remember, you don't get to go sideways. You got to go up or down. So that's not going to work. But if I go down, I do hit the curve. And so I count how many boxes I go down. And it looks like I'm going down, so it's negative, 1 box. So I go back over, and it looks like I am going to go down 1, so 0, -1. Now, I try to write my function notation. So g of equals. Okay, the orange thing goes inside. Remember, that's your x. The green thing, that's your y. That is the correct answer for the second part of C. Now, D, Part D is a little bit harder. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's easy, because it's not. I'm going to erase the markings that I put on my graph besides the blue dots, because I definitely do want them there. But this time, I'm trying to find the value of x. I don't know what the x value is. I'm going to have to find it. But I do know the y value. So this is telling me that I've got some point, I don't know what it is. I got to figure out the x value, but I do know the y value is negative 2.5. So let's highlight that guy. Okay, let's go to the graph. So I am going to go down, because it's a y value, I'm going to go down, because it's negative, 2.5. So I just start at the origin, because I don't really know where I'm supposed to go. So from the origin, I'm going down 2.5 units, because that's what my negative 2.5 is telling me. But now I have to figure out the x value this time. Well, the x-axis runs right and left. So from the end of the green dot, you have to figure out which way to go. Am I going to go right to get to the curve? Or am I going to go left to get to the curve? All right, let's try right and see what happens. So right at the end where the green stopped, if I go to the right, I don't think I'm going to hit the curve. So it's not right. So go back to where down 2.5, and we're going to go left until, and it looks like I'm going to hit the curve right around there. So I need to figure out what that x value is. So in this situation, I'm trying to figure out the orange. So I have to figure out how many boxes I went in the orange direction. Okay, so from the end of the green, I went left, so it's negative, and it looks like I went 2 boxes. So going back to part D, I think that my x value here, well, I went left 2 boxes. So I think, and I can double check it, I think that this point over here, which I'll put in blue since it's on the graph, I think that that blue point would be found by going 2 to the left and down 2.5, which it does. Now, I have to write it in the correct notation. So, G of, put the x inside, that's where our negative 2 goes. Put the y after the equal sign, negative 2.5. That is the answer to part D. So we'll add another one in. So let's find the value of x when g of x is equal to, let's see, when g of, now it may have to be an approximation, but we can get another one. So let's do when g of x is equal to 3. So, same process. I'm trying to find the value of x, which I don't know. That's my input. But I do know the output. So I'm going to start writing my point. So let's say that I have some number, which I don't know, I have to find. But I know the y value is 3. So I'm going to go back to my graph. I'm going to get rid of all my extra markings here that I'm not going to use. Start at the origin and travel in the direction that the problem says. The problem says you know y. So start at the origin and go in the y direction, so either up or down. This is a positive, so we're going to go up. And we're going to go up 3 units. So from the origin, I'm going to go up 3 units. Now I don't get to go any further up or down. Now my job is to figure out, where is the curve? Is the curve going to be to the left of that, or is the curve going to be to the right of that? If you go to the left, you're never going to hit the curve. So it's not left. So we're going to have to go right. And we're going to go right until we land on the curve. And there we go. There's another blue point. So the question is, it's on that little orange line segment. So right inside that red box, we need to know how long that orange line segment is. It's like, how many boxes is it? Well, it looks like it's a full box and then a half. So I think this is 1.5. And notice that it is to the right. So going back to the question, I would say that the x value is approximately 1.5, because I went a box and then a half of a box. Then I should be able to write my answer in notation. So it's g of, remember the x guy goes inside and the green guy goes at the end. So 1.5, because that's my x value, and then 3, because that's my y value. Okay, so if you take a look at this slide, you want to make sure that you copy down the graph. So copy down the graph, and it's just dots this time. That's it, and that's okay. It's still going to be a function, and I named it f, so I just picked a name for it. So copy down the graph. Then, once you have the graph down, I want you to see if you can do part A. Once you have part A, what you believe part A is, direct chat me, let me know what you got. Also, for every single one of these, so all of them, I want you to write it in function notation, not just part A, all of them. All right, so we know that the input is going to be -1. So I know that this is f of -1. So remember, the input goes inside the parentheses. Then we need to go over to the graph and go -1 to the left, so -1, and then we got to figure out, where do you go from there? In this case, to get to the blue dot, you're definitely going to have to go up 2 units. So I think our answer to A is f of -1 is equal to 2, which I saw people had been messaging me. Not everybody is still participating, but it's getting closer. And that's going to be our correct answer. Okay, if we want to do f of 4, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I go to the graph, I go out to 4 in the x direction, and then I ask myself, do I go up or down? In this case, it looks like you're going to have to go up 2 units. So I believe our answer to that is 2. So remember, the input and the output. All right, let's move on to f of -2. All right, so that means that our input is -2. So I'm going to go back to my graph. I'm going to start at the origin, and I'm going to go 2 to the left. Then from there, I need to try to find the dots. I'm either going to go up or down. I already know what the x is, so don't go right and left anymore. Only up or down. At this point, it looks like I'm going to have to go down 2 units to get to the blue dot. So I think that that is going to be -2. Another way to look at this This is basically saying that -2, -2 is a point on the graph. It's one of the blue dots, which it is. Likewise, this is saying that 4, 2 is one of the blue dots, which it is. And moving on to C. We know what Y is this time. So this is saying f of something, I don't know what it is -4. So I know the Y value this time. So I'm going to go back to the graph, and from the origin, so from the very middle, I'm going to go down 4 units. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, from here, you have to decide if you're going to go right or left. Well, if I go right, I don't think I hit any of the dots, so it's not that way. If I go left, I do hit the blue dot. Count how many boxes you went and in what direction. I went 3 boxes, so 3, but I went left. So inside the parentheses is going to be -3. Basically, what this is saying is that -3, -4 is a point on the graph, which it is. Okay, now I think the last one I gave you was a little tricky on purpose. So I know my Y value. So this is saying f of something, I don't know what it is going to give me 2. So I go back to the graph. I'm going to try to ignore those guys for now. I'll put my black line back in so we can see the axes. And then from the origin, I also know the Y direction. The Y direction in this case is 2. So start at the origin and go up 2. In this case, I think you have dots both left and right, which means you're going to have a couple of answers, which is okay. So if I go to the right, this looks like 4 boxes. So I think one of the answers is going to be a 4, but that's the one to the right. I still need to do the other one. I want to do all of the ones that have a height of 2. So I'm going to go back to the graph. So I went up 2. It looks like if I go left 1, I hit another 1, but it's left. So make sure that you put the negative sign in there. So what this says is that these 2 points are on the graph. 4, 2 is on the graph, so is -1, -1, +2.